Hello, Just Gem here and welcome, or indeed welcome back to my channel. I created a poll earlier on today because I had 4 palettes in mind that I wanted to film with, and here they are. So they're all lined up in front of me here. So I put on a poll about maybe 2 or 3 hours ago at this point, and I said you guys can choose. I mean, they're all coming, but I asked you what you would want to see first over on Instagram. So I'm going to have a look now. For a while, because I did check before, it was neck and neck between Skullz and Roses, Fuji 5 Lakes and Wild Atlantic Way. So let's see how the poll is doing now, and what I'll do is I'll leave it running just to determine what I film with second, third and then fourth. The current voting is as follows. Fuji 5 Lakes has 20%, Wild Atlantic Way has 27%, Skullz and Roses has 40%, and Bougie Boudoir is trailing with 13%. That's a win for Skullz and Roses. That's what I'm going to do first, and at the moment Wild Atlantic Way is going to come in second, so I'll film with that afterwards. Skullz and Roses is from a brand, a UK indie brand called Kaima Cosmetics, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And I think I'm correct in saying that it's named after the son of the owner of the brand, and his name is Kai. And I feel like that must be true because that seems like quite an elaborate thing to make up, or I feel like I must have subconsciously remembered that bit of information. This is the inside of the palette, and I'm tilting it ever so slightly away from the light so it's not quite as washed out, but it's a very kind of gothy, vampy colour story. You've got your golds, you've got your reds, you've got some deep sort of burgundy in there, there's a black. To a certain extent, the shade Crowned almost looks a bit out of place. It's quite light toned in comparison, but I suppose it brings some balance because it's a very, very sultry colour story. So I haven't done swatches, not yet, so this could be interesting. I think I will do my usual one look on each eye, and I have 0 brushes in front of me. Where have I put my brushes? Let me rectify that. I'm going to get my brushes out so I can actually put some eyeshadow on my eyes. I found my brushes. I'd put them in the bathroom. Evidently I'd planned on washing them and then abandoned that idea. So I have taken the liberty of ISO cleaning them, but I think tomorrow is going to have to be brush washing day. I'm going to have to pull my finger out and get it done. As I was sort of saying, I will do one look on each eye as I normally do. I'm almost thinking that I want to do something that's a bit more muted as you can get with a palette with a colour story like this. So maybe sort of focusing almost on Cryptic, which is here, Savage, and then the golds in here, maybe a Dazzle. I mean, some of these are shifty though, so I might have to do some quick hand swatches just to see the shifts. And then on the other side I'll go full on vampy with the reds and the blacks. Yeah, I think I'll do that. Picked up a refer number 1. We'll start with Cryptic. Cryptic is this shade right here. I'm thinking ahead to content for 2025, and while I love a US indie brand, the majority of them are actually quite tricky to get hold of. I don't know why I'm using that mirror. Let's use this mirror, it's much easier. For those of you who are fans of that. It can be quite pricey to get US indie brands over here. So Blend Bunny is at that point now where it's much easier to get, and very quickly too, because Glisten stocks them. So I would love to see Glisten stocking more US indie brands in future. And being based in the UK myself, obviously UK indie brands are considerably easier to get hold of. I kind of went on the hunt for some UK indie brands, and Kaima Cosmetics was a brand that seemed to keep popping up. From my understanding, I think they used to do a lot of single shadows, those really impactful duochromes, multi-chromes, shifty shades, that kind of thing, and they still do that. And I mean, I can see from this and from swatches I've seen previously that there are some shifty shades in this palette. And they had a Halloween sale where I believe it was 30% off. And Cole of the Ball had not recently even, but I know that she had done a review of Bougie Boudoir, which I've also got, and she recommended it, and I thought, well, let me get them both, I might as well at the same time. But Bougie Boudoir was out of stock, frustratingly, and I'm one of those people who I resent paying postage of any kind whatsoever. I will add another item into the basket to take me over the threshold for postage, even if adding that item in fact ends up being more than the order would have been if I just paid the postage. That's how petty I am when it comes to postage costs. So I thought, I'm not going to bother then. And then randomly, Bougie Boudoir came back into stock, and I thought, well, that's a sign. It was one left, so I moved at the speed of light and placed my order, and here we are with both palettes. I don't know how I'd describe that shade. Maybe I'll use enamel on the outside to deepen things up a bit. Refa 14, and enamel is this kind of aubergine shade. It's quite washed out in the camera, but it's a really nice deep eggplant / aubergine shade. One thing I will say, and it's potentially going to sound a bit snobby, is I'm not overly enamoured with the packaging. It's a bit it's going to sound really awful, but it's a bit, I designed it in my garage. Maybe not Skullz and Roses so much. That I don't mind. That's appropriate. I know I'm not reviewing Bougie Boudoir right now, but that just kind of looks a bit, well, amateurish. It really kind of annoys me. And then it really annoys me that the font, so the font in here is, the font's alright, it's fine, but the thing that's thrown me is that in Skullz and Roses, it's this gold capital lettering. And it just immediately, I thought, I couldn't help but compare it to like Cosmic Beauty, for example, / Cosmic Brushes. Their packaging is very uniformed, their lettering is uniformed, and like, don't get me wrong, you can look at both of these and be like, okay, yeah, those are both Kaima Cosmetics palettes, but I just feel like their packaging could do with being a bit elevated. Does that sound really snobby? I have to say though that it came very well packaged. You get this outer carton which matches the front of the palette, and then the palette is inside wrapped in bubble wrap, so very much the Beauty Bay style of packaging, so I did like that. I'd say formula wise it's perhaps a little on the dry side. It'll be interesting to see when I swatch the shades. But having said that, it's not, it doesn't seem to be stopping them from blending. And I did probably put a bit too much of Cryptic in. I was talking far too much and not concentrating, and I did perhaps dip into that more than I should have done. But no, that's blending in quite nicely. So I can't remember if I said in my previous video, but I have had my mum stain. That's quite nice. So I've just gone into my Refa 1, I've cleaned that off, but I just wanted to get a bit more of a smoother blend. So there's no pigment on there, and I've just run it through, and I think that that's just added quite a nice blend there. Now we're kind of onto the shimmers. I'm gonna have to swatch the shimmers, aren't I? I'm looking at Trance, Charm and Dazzle. That's Trance. See, that's very pink. It's weird. I've got a mirror beside me on this side, and it's very gold in that, but I'm looking at the monitor and that's very pink. But that's Trance, and then, I mean, you can't see the next name of the shade, but that's Charm there. And then you've got Dazzle in the corner here. Trance. Okay, that feels nice. That's, ooh, that feels creamy. Charm. That also feels quite nice. Ever so slightly chunky, and you can almost see from the texture in the pan that they're going to be a bit chunky. And then Dazzle, which feels ever so slightly drier. So Trance. Yeah, see, that's, can you see that? Ooh, that's nice. Charm. Yeah, that's more like a true gold there. Oh no, it's got oh. In my mirror, I'm so glad I've got this mirror in front of me, because I'm gonna have to find a way to show these shifts to you, because they are not showing on the camera, but I can see it in my mirror that I've got beside me. Ooh, that's pretty. And then what's the last one? Dazzle. Is that shifty as well? See, that's quite chunky. I've had a big chunk just drop off there. I wonder, are they all shifty shades? They probably are. I never read anything before I just kind of pick up these shadows and shove them on my eyes. Like this middle one, in my mirror it's bluey green. It's not that colour on the monitor. That's amazing. Oh, now I don't know. I think Dazzle, because the shift is more of a neutral shift. Maybe that, I don't think that has a shift. So I'm going to use Dazzle because I think the others have too strong a shift. This is nice. Right, let me see if I can do this with my phone, because I want to be able to show this to you, because the shifts in these is phenomenal. I don't know how best to show you this. I still don't think that this is really doing these justice. That might be as good as I'm going to be able to get. I'm going to have to find a way to show this to you, because nothing is doing these justice. I think it's one of those, get the low light out and film you under low light. I'm like a magpie. I'm distracted now by the shimmers on the back of my hand. But we're going to do Dazzle. I'll keep it simple. I'll go in, when I want to do an inner corner, I'm going to go into my Hourglass palette. But let's do Dazzle here. And I haven't put down, especially on a first go, wow, I mean, this is night and day to that Mitchell palette I've just used. Okay, what I was trying to say is I haven't put down any NYX glitter glue only because I like to see how shadows perform without a NYX glitter glue, at least to start with. I mean, it's quite chunky, but that's probably because I was a bit heavy-handed, because I was not expecting that. So let's get a refer number 1 and just go over that a little bit, just to spread it, to be honest. It's like a beacon. I think there are satellites owned by NASA that have suddenly picked me up. That's intense. That's nice. And I think this was the right shimmer shade choice. What I might do is throw the kitchen sink at the other eye just out of curiosity. But then at the same time, when it comes to shifty shades like this, you almost want them to have their own moment. Do I have any fallout? Yes, I do. I'm not remotely surprised. Not remotely surprised. I'm going back into Enamel, that eggplant shade, and I'm just running that along. And this is a Zoeva 230 Luxe pencil brush. I feel like I want to soften that a little bit. So I'm just using Allure. So that's Allure right there. It's just ever so slightly, it's in the same family but lighter than Enamel. So touch of that. So we're going to go to the other side now, and we're going to go full on vampy. So I think I'll start with Roses. I'm going to start with Roses, and then I think I'll deepen up the crease with Ravish. Then I'm definitely using Raven here, that black shade, on the sort of outer V. And then I'll see when it comes to the rest of the shimmers in there, because let's see once I've done those. So I'm just cleaning off all my brushes, getting all the pigment off so I can use all the same brushes again. So starting with Roses. And I'm putting that quite high because I want to give myself room to attempt to blend and get a gradient going. That's pretty. I feel like I go through phases actually with red eyeshadow. So before that earthy look that I did recently, it had been ages since I'd done a red look. This is a nice shade of red. It's perhaps deeper than I'd expected it to be, but that happens a lot with my skin tone. Refer 14 into Ravish. Oh, that's got a lot of kick up there. And I'm going just a little bit underneath. I don't know that that's deepening it. Oh yeah, it is. It is. Same ref for 14, just wiping off that red pigment because I'm going into the black called Raven. Right on the edge here. And this time I don't want to carry it in too much. I do want to concentrate it right on the very corner. Like that. I literally am just using it for the outer V. Sometimes I carry a shade in and I almost blend it in 2/3 of the way, but on this eye I just want it to be on that corner, like so. These are blending really nicely. It's time for the shimmers. So this look is it's quite purpley, so I almost want to bypass Sorcery and go for Skullz and or Jinx. That's Skullz and that's Jinx there. So let's swatch those two, and we'll do that on this hand. Skullz, that feels creamy. Jinx, yeah, that feels nice as well. Skullz, and then this is Jinx. They're quite similar. Skullz is a bit chunkier. Jinx has got silvery undertones, and Skullz has got this black base, but it's got some gold, but there's like a hint of green in there. Yeah, I think that's better. Excuse the clutter on my desk, but I just wanted you to be able to see this. What one am I using? I think Skullz. I mean, if I've used Roses, I should also use the shade Skullz, shouldn't I? So we're going in with Skullz. Use my little finger on this hand. That's pretty cool. I think I can honestly say that this is not like any other look I've ever done, to be honest, and it's just because the shades and the shimmers in here are just... I don't know if I want to risk putting a shade like Charm on my inner corner. So should I try it? It's only makeup. You can always wash it off if you don't like it. Right, let's do it. That's Charm there. It's just got a pinkish hue, so I don't know, but I'm gonna risk it. I'm gonna try it anyway. Zoeva 237. That's quite bitty, but I'm not mad at that. For the under eye, part of me wants to go in with Sorcery. Is that a bit unorthodox? See, Sorcery, that just looks straight up grey, but that's purple. What Sorcery is this? Right, let's get a swatch. I did. Note to self, bougie boudoir, swatch them first. Oh, Sorcery. That's Sorcery there. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I'm putting it on my eye. I might just run Ravish under and then almost tight line, or a bit of like Ravish and Raven. Picking up that Sorcery shade. I don't even know if it will lay down but I literally just want a hint of it. Yeah, like that. I'm gonna finish off my face. I don't know if I've got any fallout on this side. I don't think I have. But I'm gonna do the rest of my face, and then I'm gonna come back and give you my first impressions on the Skullz and Roses palette. Back shortly. I have finished my look, but before I did that, I thought I would do the swatches quickly so that I could show them to you. And sometimes I wish I did the swatches on screen, because there's a shade here, Enchantment, next to the black, and I don't think it would be possible for me to recreate the exclamation that escaped my mouth when I swatched that shade. It's stunning, and it's just the shifts in some of these shades which it's just so hard to capture, but it's a beautiful colour story. It really, really is. And then I've just got my torch on my phone, just running it along there, just to try to capture some of those shifts, but I'm doing a terrible job, to be honest. Terrible job. Now I'll show you my final looks. Here is look number one. So it's, I mean, no look created with this palette is going to be muted, but this is probably about as muted as you're gonna get using the Skullz and Roses palette. So that's I1, and then this is I2, and I've tried to go a bit more vampy, and I've used a few more shades in there, and it's quite a sultry look. Do you have a preference? I've zoomed you out. What is on my face? Same combo. I couldn't find my Rimmel Thrill Seeker, so I first tried to use a Benefit magnet one. They're magnetic, something like that, but it's dried out, so it's rubbish. So I've binned that, and then I found my Rimmel Thrill Seeker, and I've used that. As per usual, Clinique Easy liner. On my lips, I have lined it with the NYX lip liner in the shade Blackberry, which is basically just a black liner, and then I've used this rather ancient lippy. I think it's one of those, I should throw it away by now, because it's when KVD was in fact still Kat Von D, and it's this black lippy in, I want to say Slayer. Yes, Slayer. I was going to go for a red lippy, but I've done a red lippy quite a few times recently, and I thought the next most appropriate colour for both looks would be this black, so that's what I've gone for. For blush, I have gone into my Deeper Than Deep curve case, and I've used Dairy Queen. I just thought a purple blush would suit both looks really well, and I have set that with the Kaima Cosmetics powder blush in Mulberry Muse. So that's Mulberry Muse there, and I've gone in very, very lightly. I think, yeah, you can see it there, but I've gone in very, very lightly with the Made by Mitchell Blush Pressed Highlighter Duo. So this is the Sweet Tooth Duo, and I've used the shade Candy Trip, which is the skinny shade there. And this is the look. And quite frankly, I'm blown away. Now, this might be because any palette I tried after that shit show that was the Made by Mitchell Sunset Chaser palette, maybe anything that was marginally better would have rocked my world. But and And also maybe it's because I don't have anything like this. Like, I don't have a palette that has a similar colour story to this, which is unusual for someone who has as many eyeshadow palettes as I do. The special shades in here, of which there are many, are incredible. There's a learning curve, I'm not going to lie. Some of these are quite chunky. Just looking at the swatches here, for example, I mean, even just looking at the pan, you can tell which ones are chunky. You can see that. So Trance has got some heft to it, and then you've got Charm here. That's clearly a bit of a chunkster. Dazzle ever so slightly. Enchantment, which I've just said because I've shown the swatches at this point. When I swatched that, it's just this purple, goldy, pinky, glorious shade. Charm on my arm, but Charm didn't swatch the best on my arm, but I don't know if it's kind of got a translucent base, because looking at it now I can still see this like galactic shift where it's got blue and green and I want to say purple in there. It's just stunning. The mattes are on the drier side, definitely. It's as if they've reserved all of the moisture of the palette for the shimmer shades in here. So the mattes are dry, but they worked. They blended. There was no skipping. Raven, the black, went beautifully over the top of Ravish and Roses. And again, I have to stress here, I'm not an expert blender. Let me turn my lighting down. I turned it up for the swatches, but that's a bit intense, isn't it? That's better. There we go. I just caught my highlighter there as well. That's nice, isn't it? Skullz and Jinx, but Skullz especially are just... So Skullz is the black based special shade I ended up using on my lid for this look, and it's just got these particles in it, and it's just, I mean, I feel like some of these shades are indescribable. I'm normally quite an articulate person, but I'm struggling to put into words here just how incredible I think this palette is, to the point where I would wash this off just because I'd be desperate to try Bougie Boudoir at this point. And I almost... I wasn't going to get Bougie Boudoir because I felt it was too close to the neutral colour story that Beauty Bay do. And to be perfectly honest, if it's anything like this formula, it's going to piss all over the neutral palette, to be quite frank. But this is just, I mean, they're still on my arm. This is part of the reason why I wanted to do the swatches, because I just wanted to be able to refer to them while I was giving you my first impressions and letting you know how I feel about this palette. I think depending on what I end up doing, Crowned is not a shade I'm going to be reaching for a lot, if at all. This is stunning. And I'm not even mad at the fact that the mattes are dry, because one, they still work, and two, in a palette like this you can fully understand and appreciate that they're going to want to put the time and the effort into the multi-chromes and the duochromes that are in here, and to be honest, it shows. From the swatches and the way they perform and the way they've laid down, I'm particularly impressed because of the fact that I haven't used any kind of sticky base, and it's adhering, it's sticking, and the fallout was minimal. That's it, guys. That's the Skullz and Roses palette from Kaima Cosmetics. I think it's out of stock at the moment. Let me just double check. Skullz and Roses is in stock, and the RRP of that is £47, so it's not cheap. But having swatched them, I fully understand why. And as I say, I got 30% off as they were running a Halloween sale. But Bougie Boudoir, that is currently out of stock. They seem to have switched the Halloween promo for a new promo, and it's Black Friday 24, and that will give you 30% off. And I think for the stock that they have in at the moment, that's going to be it until next year. So when this stock runs out, they're not going to be restocking until 2025 rolls around, which admittedly is not a long time to wait. But if you watch this and you're thinking to yourself, I must have it, I would move quickly rather than walk. As a first impression, wow. Thoroughly impressed with that. Kaima Cosmetics, I'd say that is outstanding. I think it's beautiful. I can't wait to play with that some more. There are quite a few shades that I haven't used yet. Enchantment needs to get on my eyeballs. Now I've seen that. 10 out of 10, full marks. And I take back everything I said about the packaging, because to be honest, if you're taking the money out of enhancing the packaging and putting it in the shades, I'd rather you did that, to be honest. If the focus is going to be on the contents rather than the cover, so to speak, then fair play, especially if the quality is going to be like that. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to stop gushing over this palette. I've thoroughly enjoyed using that. That was a lot of fun, and I think it's a beautiful, beautiful palette, and I highly recommend it. As always, thank you for taking the time to watch. I hope that you found this useful, and I also hope to see you again in a video in the not too distant future. Take care. Bye.